I'm joined here in Brussels by Nigel Farage, UKIP leader. Thank you so much for your time. You heard William Hague there saying we have been standing up for Britain's national interests. Do you think he's right, or are we now marginalised?
Well, initially I thought, what good news. The British Prime Minister has been tough and been strong. But actually what happened here was a sign of weakness. Had Cameron said, look, I want protections for the City of London, or else I'll have a referendum in Britain on our membership of the Union, he would have got what he wanted. He wasn't prepared to do that, and now we finished this summit with Cameron having gained absolutely nothing, with the prospect of us repatriating powers now having disappeared completely, and with the City of London that he sought to protect now more vulnerable than I think it's ever been. So no, this is not a good situation for Cameron, and he will go home, and if he thinks by doing this he's somehow appeased the Eurosceptics and those of us that want a referendum on our membership, far from it, he's fed it.
Really?
Oh yes, without any shadow of a doubt, the real European debate in Britain began today. It is quite untenable for us to remain in a union, alone, on the outside, having laws made for us, in a permanent voting minority. The time has come for Britain to make its mind up. We must have that referendum.
You heard William Hague, and the Prime Minister has been saying much the same thing, which is within the 27 countries there are a number of groups. The Schengen arrangement, there are agreements on defence. This is just another of those agreements. It is nothing fundamental.
This is fundamentally different. This is the Eurozone, the 17, plus another half a dozen that want to join the Eurozone, and we are clearly seen to be the villain of the piece. We are now left in an outside room. We're excluded from many of the big discussions. We'll be subject to all the rules and regulations that they decide to make for British industry and be in a permanent voting minority. This is the worst of all worlds for the UK.
But how does a referendum make it any better?
Because I think now there is a clear settled will in the United Kingdom amongst the population and amongst the business community that we want a simple free trade deal with our European neighbours, but not membership of this union.
You see, there will be those that say that David Cameron, in terms of that basic negotiating position, using the veto, was in effect pandering to the Eurosceptics, because to sign up would have started that whole argument.
It's a little bit like when Tony Blair decided, I'll deal with Scottish nationalism by giving them devolved powers, thinking that would end Scottish nationalism. What it did, in fact, was to feed it, and the SNP is now the biggest party. And now, when he comes home, the calls, the demands within his own party and from without for Britain to have a referendum to settle this historic matter once and for all will be overwhelming.
So you agree, then, with the Lithuanians who are saying that Europe is, as a whole, unified, and Britain is on the outside?
Britain is very much on the outside. You know, we're half in, half out. We're subject to the rules. We have no influence whatsoever. It's costing us a vast amount of money to be here. It's time to leave the EU and rejoin the rest of the world.
Despite it being such a critical part of our trade and the amount that we...
I was on Swiss television this morning and they were astonished that we were linking trade with EU membership. As they said to me, we have exactly the same terms of trade with European companies as you do, without membership of the Union and without all those awful rules and regulations.
Nigel Farage, we will leave it there. Thanks very much as we